Without further ado, I want to introduce State Representative Alice Peisch. For 11 years, Alice Peisch has served as the state representative for the 14th Norfolk District. Prior to her service in the legislature, Representative Peisch was active in Wellesley's municipal government, where she served on the town's advisory finance committee and school committees. A lot of school committee members here today. Currently, Representative Peisch serves as the House Chair of the Joint Committee on Education. Another reason why this is perfect that she's here today. A post that she's also held since 2011. In her role as chair, Representative Peisch works on matters relating to education from birth through grade 12. Representative Peisch's top priority is to ensure a top quality education for all students in the Commonwealth. For her work on education collaboratives, Representative Peisch received the 2012 Walt Turner Award from the National Association of Education Services Agencies. She was also the recipient of the 2012 Massachusetts Association of School Committees Legislator of the Year Award. Wow. And the 2012 and 2013 Massachusetts Reading Association's Reading Advocate Award. So without further ado, we want to thank Representative Alice Peisch.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for inviting me to address the group this morning. I would like to take the opportunity first to thank the World of Wellesley for the many years that this organization has been focusing on encouraging tolerance and exposing Wellesley residents to different cultures within the community. And I noticed that the person that I know is responsible for creating the World of Wellesley is here taking photographs this morning, Richard McGee, who has really been at this for a very long time. With respect to this morning and this the Diversity Summit, which has already been said is the first of its kind, I think that there are really a couple of reasons why it's important that we move from simply encouraging tolerance and making people aware of differences to really embracing the differences and the diversity that exists within our community, our state, our country. Over the past probably 10 to 20 years, I think two trends have emerged which make it imperative that we do this. The first is that our population has changed dramatically. In preparation for this morning, I took a look at the 2000 census numbers for Wellesley versus the 2010 census numbers. And we see that we have had significant and dramatic increases in the minority residents of the town. The percentage increases are quite significant. Something on the order of 50%, 60% increases in both African American and our Asian populations. That can be a little bit misleading because the numbers were not very large to begin with. So we still, I think, don't have as diverse a population as the rest of the country, but certainly it is moving in that direction. As our own population in the town becomes more diverse, I think it's important that we become familiar with all of the different groups that are represented here. And the second reason that I think it's important, and this is something that I encounter all the time with respect to my work in public education, and that is, as I'm sure you are all aware, the world is shrinking. We no longer exist in a world where we are born, grow up, go to school, and work in the same town or in the same state or in the same country. Most of our children are working in jobs where they are working with people from all over, not just Massachusetts, not just the United States, but the world. And we exist as part of a global economy. And if we do not become more comfortable and aware of the differences among the different groups of people that not only live here but live in the rest of the world, I think that will lead to the kinds of stress and conflict that we see in those countries where they have not been able to get along with people of different backgrounds. I think, what's going on in the Middle East today is a perfect example of that. So there's a really strong, I think, imperative for us to move to understanding and getting to know and feeling comfortable with different groups of people. With respect to the United States, I think it's very interesting and important for us to appreciate that this year, for the first time, the superintendent may be aware of this, the majority of students in public schools in the United States are members of racial or ethnic minorities in the country. So so you can see that the world is moving, and it will become even more rapidly moving in a direction that does not reflect what particularly the older people in this room grew up with. So I think here in Wellesley, we're moving in the right direction, and I think in Massachusetts we're moving in the right direction. I think a couple of examples that I have seen of what I view as the really not just increasing tolerance for differences, but the embracing of it. I think the best example of that here in Massachusetts is the change in attitude that I've seen with respect to gay and lesbian people. When I was first elected to the legislature, one of the first issues that we took up was the issue of gay marriage. And at that time, that was an extraordinarily divisive issue. And today, at least in my experience, it's become a non-issue. And to me, that's an extraordinarily encouraging turn of events because it shows that people can change. And I think that their attitudes have changed because they've become exposed to and met people who are gay, lesbian, and they didn't know it before. And they had this image that was completely inaccurate about that particular group of people. And I think we can apply that to all kinds of different groups of people that we may not be familiar with. So I think that just goes to show the importance of exposure to groups that we might otherwise not be familiar with. And I think exposure and meetings like today where you get to talk about this and meet people of different backgrounds really will go a long way to having everyone be much more comfortable with and embracing of people who are different from themselves. And another example that occurred to me that's more personal to me is that I realized that I have three people on the staff of the Education Committee, three young women. One of them was born in India, and one of them is the daughter of immigrants from Korea. So 2/3 of the staff on the Education Committee are people that are not originally, their families are not from this country. So I think that demonstrates and I think if you were to look at the State House, traditionally, it is not a place that has reflected vast ethnic differences. So I think to see, and that's the norm. I kind of looked around into the other offices and realized that this is, the young people who are coming to work in state government are very reflective of the diversity of the population that we have. So I think that is a very good thing. So while I think those are examples that I see as positive and encouraging, nonetheless, I think we're all aware of the fact that we do have a long way to go. And I think what happened in Missouri in the past few weeks reminds us that we have a long way to go in this country in terms of people being, as I said earlier, not just tolerant, but welcoming and embracing of the differences among us. So I think that a forum like this is very helpful. It starts the conversation, brings people together. Now, I suspect that the people who came this morning, who got up early on a Saturday morning to come discuss this, are probably representative of people in the community who are already quite sensitive to these issues. However, this is a start, and the fact that we are focusing on this and having this summit, I think, is very important. I would like to add one other sort of difference that I don't think has been mentioned yet today, and ask people to think about this going forward, and that is the list of groups that and subjects that you're discussing this morning include racial diversity, ethnic diversity, the age, a number of things that I think come to mind when we talk about cultural differences and diversity in our community. But the one difference that I think we also need to be very cognizant of that can be, if we don't address it, can, I think, lead to some real problems for our whole society, is the socioeconomic differences. Unfortunately, we are seeing a dramatic increase in the gap between those who are very well off economically and those who are not. And the article that I was reading in Education Week that was talking about that the number of students in our public schools are the minority. We're now a majority minority in the public schools. Also pointed out, unfortunately, that along with that has come a dramatic increase in the number of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So that means that we have a real issue with respect to gaps in the socioeconomic background of our young people. And where I see that on a daily basis is in the gap in achievement in schools, which is very significant between those students who come from families where they have a lot of supports at home and well-educated parents who end up with very successful children. And in Wellesley, we're very fortunate that the overwhelming majority of our students come from families that have the economic resources to support the needs of the students. But I know that not all of the students in Wellesley do, and I have had some conversations with the superintendent where he has pointed out that the gaps that we read about across the country and across the state exist here. So I think as we are thinking about all of the different areas in which our community, our state, our country is becoming increasingly diverse, we need to include, and I think every group that's mentioned that we're going to be talking about this morning, there are people in those groups that fall, that there's a range of economic stability within those groups. So I think that's something that's really important to keep in mind. I'm probably spending a little bit more time in my talk this morning on issues related to education. That's because that's where I spend most of my time. It's also because I think that is where we have the ability to affect change. So this morning when we're all going to be moving into smaller groups to discuss these issues, this is a good start, but I think one of the things I think would be really useful to come out of this summit is concrete steps about what to do next. And I believe that many of them will probably be related to what goes on in our schools. I know developing cultural competence among students and faculty is very important, and that is one of the better ways to ensure that as students come into the schools that they are all treated well. So I encourage people to think about these things, and I really do think that we need to focus on this whole issue. This whole concept of embracing diversity, I think, needs to be part of our everyday lives, not just a day here or a month there, but something that becomes embedded in the way we live our lives. So I'm hopeful that this summit this morning is the first step in a long path that will continue, and that next year I would hope that we have many more people showing up at this event. And I want to thank again Michelle for organizing this, and the World of Wellesley for all of the good work that organization has done over the years to promote diversities, the acceptance of diversity in the community of Wellesley. So Michelle said that I would be happy to take questions. I'm cognizant of the fact that it is a little after 9, and that the groups are supposed to start meeting, or were supposed to have started meeting already. So if anyone has a particular question, I'm happy to answer it, but if you'd all like to get to your small groups, I certainly think that is worthwhile. Yes?
Just one question. You talked about developing cultural competence. Do you know of a curriculum that's a very good curriculum that some school districts have introduced around that concept?
I don't know of a specific curriculum, but I certainly could give you get you some information on some different options. I suspect that there are people in the room who are familiar with curriculums. The superintendent is nodding his head. I suspect Khalees is probably very familiar with curriculums that address that issue. You're welcome. Well, thank you very much.